The time is precisely 6:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Dulmin Samra Singha and read by Chandima Veerakon. Headlines. Health authorities emphasize the need for the public to be responsible than imposing laws. Documenting of persons above 60 years who have not received COVID vaccines begins. The country loses 15 billion rupees daily due to its closure. Several ambassadors meet the foreign minister. MP Rishad Badiuddin named as the fifth accused into the death of a 16-year-old female domestic worker at his residence. In foreign news, India evacuates its stranded citizens. In sports, Le Mans 24, Toyota win endurance race for fourth successive year. Local stories in detail. Deputy Director General of Health Ministry, Dr. Hemantha Herath said it is better for the people to understand the risks of the pandemic and take measures accordingly than imposing laws. He said although quarantine curfew has been imposed to control the pandemic, it is observed that public attention is not sufficient. Documenting of persons above 60 years of age who have not received the COVID vaccine has begun. Gram Niladaris, regional health officers and divisional secretariat are preparing the lists which are expected to be completed today. Vaccination of those people will begin tomorrow. One of the main aims of quarantine curfew is to vaccinate all those who are more than 60 years of age. The government has emphasized that the country loses 15 billion rupees daily by locking down. Government has said it is taking all measures to protect civilian lives and to maintain the economy amid difficulties. Economic factors should be considered to manage the economy. It has pointed out that locking down will decrease economic activities affecting the gross domestic product. The Pakistan High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Major General Muhammad Saad Khattak, called on the new Foreign Minister Professor G.L. Peris recently at the Foreign Ministry. The Pakistan High Commissioner briefed him on the situation in Afghanistan. He emphasized that the Taliban has assured the safety of foreign nationals in Afghanistan and has also made a pledge that rights of women and children would be protected. The High Commissioner also said Pakistan hopes that Afghanistan would soon establish a peaceful government structure and integrate with the rest of the world. Minister Peris also sought assistance from the government of Pakistan to evacuate Sri Lankan nationals from Afghanistan, to which High Commissioner Khattak responded by assuring that the fullest support would be extended by his government in that context. Foreign Minister Peris and the Pakistan High Commissioner Khattak discussed further scope for enhancing trade and investment opportunities between both countries under the bilateral free trade agreement, as well as through joint initiatives aimed at promotion of investments. Foreign Minister Peris appreciated the training opportunities provided by the Pakistan government for the Sri Lanka Defence Forces and scholarships for Sri Lankan students for their higher studies, and stressed that those opportunities and cooperation in defence matters should be further increased in the coming years. Former Minister Rishad Badiuddin has been named as the fifth accused in the case pertaining to the death of a 16-year-old female domestic worker at his residence. Meanwhile, the four suspects, including the MP's wife, who were arrested following investigations into the teenage girl's death, have been further remanded until September 6th. They were ordered to be re-remanded when the case was taken up before the Colombo Magistrates Court today. Meanwhile, Prisons Department has initiated an investigation into the alleged death threats made by MP Rishad Badiuddin at a prison doctor. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
A giant interest rate for your fixed deposit that you deposit this month. Call 0718 800 999.
Continuing with the local stories, Foreign Minister Professor G.L. Peiris has thanked China for its continuous support to Sri Lanka. The minister mentioned this during a discussion with Chinese Ambassador Ki Zhenghong recently. The Chinese ambassador has assured the commitment of China for Sri Lanka's social and economic development and the support for COVID control program. Meanwhile, the U.S. ambassador in Sri Lanka, Elena Teplitz, also made Foreign Minister G.L. Peiris recently. The foreign minister thanked the U.S. for the assistance given to control the pandemic and to minimize the damage caused by the burnt Express Pearl ship. He requested further assistance from the U.S. European Union ambassador in the country, Denis Chaibi, met Foreign Minister G.L. Peiris recently. They have held discussions on cooperation in political and economic sectors. The ambassador of the Russian Federation to the Sri Lanka, Yuri B. Matei, paid the courtesy call on the newly appointed Foreign Minister Professor G.L. Peiris recently at the Foreign Ministry. During the meeting, Foreign Minister Peiris underscored the importance of Sri Lanka's long-standing friendship and wide-ranging cooperation with Russia and expressed appreciation for Russia's support to Sri Lanka on issues of principle and relevance in multilateral fora. The foreign minister's sentiments were reciprocated by Ambassador Matei. The meeting entailed reference to upcoming political consultations between the two foreign ministries, convening of the Intergovernmental Commission on Trade, Economic, Scientific and Technical Cooperation, and commemoration of the 65th anniversary of Sri Lanka-Russia diplomatic relations in 2022. Commander of the Navy, Vice Admiral Nishantha Ulugethanna, this morning visited the Indian naval ship Shakti and Sri Lanka naval ship Shakti that arrived in Colombo with freight of medical-grade oxygen. Addressing the ship's crew of Indian naval ship Shakti, Commander of the Navy expressed his profound gratitude to them and the Indian Navy for their all-out support extended in the swift delivery of supplemental oxygen to Sri Lanka. He also praised the crew of Sri Lanka naval ship Shakti that made the ship ready for this special voyage at short notice, shouldering the task of national importance. Minister Gamini Lokuge said the opposition, which demanded to lock down the country, gathered people violating health guidelines. Taking part in the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna news briefing today, he said the number of COVID patients increased due to those activities of the opposition. He said although the opposition is working to achieve its narrow political aims, the president is taking measures to protect people and the economy by expediting the vaccination program. Minister Bandula Gunamadana says that steps have been taken to provide a concessionary sack with 20 essential goods valuing 2,600 rupees for families under quarantine. He said divisional secretaries, social service organizations and philanthropists can visit Satasa and get it prepared. To end the local news, the headlines again. Health authorities emphasize the need for the public to be responsible than imposing laws. Documenting of persons above 60 years who have not received COVID vaccines begins. Country loses 15 billion rupees daily due to its closure. Several ambassadors meet the foreign minister. MP Rishad Batiuddin named as the fifth accused into the death of a 16-year-old female domestic worker at his residence. That ends local news.
Now, get your EPF loan information and service details via SMS from HDFC Bank. Wherever you are, being a state and private sector employee, to obtain EPF loan information and service details, just send a SMS mentioning EPF space, name and region to 0718 800 999. HDFC Bank, the bank for your home.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddha Lepa Veda Mahatmya.
On the main news story, Foreign Minister Professor G.L. Peiris today appreciated India's move to supply emergency consignments of liquid oxygen from East Indian ports, even by using Indian naval ships. The minister also expressed appreciation and continuous support being provided by India for combating the COVID-19 pandemic. He made these remarks when High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka, Gopal Bagle, called on the minister today. Minister Peris also appreciated the offer of $15 million by the Government of India to preserve and promote Buddhist cultural sites in Sri Lanka and expressed interest in early implementation of the offer. That ends the main news.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight. The General Directorate of Residence and Foreign Affairs, Dubai, has extended the expiry date of residence visas for nationals of India, Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Nigeria and Uganda who are stranded abroad. The authorities said visas have been extended till the 10th of November 2021. That ends Watchlight. We move on with the world news. The headlines. India evacuates its stranded citizens. Taiwan rolls out homegrown vaccine amid criticism. Tennessee flash flood kills 22 with dozens missing. India is continuing efforts to evacuate people from Afghanistan as the situation remains fluid after the Taliban's rapid takeover of the country. A batch of 146 stranded Indians who were evacuated to Doha arrived in Delhi today. They travelled to the capital in 3 different flights, including a transport plane, according to reports. With this, India has evacuated nearly 400 people since the past week. Taiwan has begun administering its first domestically developed COVID-19 vaccine amidst criticism that its approval was rushed. The island's health ministry authorized emergency use of the Medigen vaccine last month, although clinical trials are yet to be completed. Taiwan's vaccination efforts have been hampered by delivery delays and hesitancy amongst its population. President Tsai Ing-wen led the way in receiving the Medigen jab on Monday. At least 22 people have been killed and dozens more are missing following flash floods in the U.S. state of Tennessee. Rescue crews are searching for more than 50 people in rural Humphreys County, which is west of Nashville. The record-breaking flooding began on Saturday, submerging entire roads and taking out telephone and power lines. To end the world news, the headlines again. India evacuates its stranded citizens. Taiwan rolls out homegrown vaccine amid criticism. Tennessee flash flood kills 22 with dozens missing. That ends the world news.
Development News is brought to you by
Quality matters than price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melba RB500. It's made with virgin billets using the latest technology. Melba RB500, number 1 in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
And on development news, backed by government support, Sri Lanka's solar industry is upbeat over the ability of achieving 2,700 megawatt target in installed capacity by 2030, which in result stands to save as much as $495 million in foreign exchange outflows per annum to the country. Sri Lanka's rooftop solar industry, comprising of 260 firms so far, has installed 370 megawatt capacity in the country's rooftops in both residential and commercial establishments. That ends the development news.
Development News was brought to you by
Quality matters than price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melba RB500. It's made with virgin billets using the latest technology. Melba RB500, number 1 in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
And on sports news, it's motorsport, golf, football and cycling. In motorsports, Toyota's dominance of the Le Mans 24-hour race continued as they secured victory for the 4th successive year. The Japanese manufacturer's 2 hypercars finished first and second at the Sate circuit. Britain's Mike Conway, Japan's Kamui Kobayashi and Argentina's Jose Maria Lopez finished 2 laps clear in the number 7 G10 car. In golf, England's Georgia Hall, Charlie Hull and Mel Reid are all in Europe's team for their defence of the Solheim Cup against the United States in September. Hall and Hull qualified automatically, while Reid is one of 6 captain's picks made by Catriona Matthew. Ireland's Leona Maguire makes her debut after also being picked by Matthew. In football, Rangers have begun an investigation after a video showed fans allegedly chanting a racist song about Celtic's Japanese forward Kyogo Furuhashi. The social media footage from what appears to be a supporters' bus emerged on Sunday when Rangers were in Dingwall to play Ross County. Celtic say the video, if accurate, is sickening and pathetic and deserves absolute condemnation. In cycling, Damiano Caruso became the first rider to claim a mountain stage on 2 different Grand Tours this year as he won stage 9 of the Vuelta a España. The Bahrain victorious rider, who became second at the Giro d'Italia in May, produced a superb solo ride as he crossed the line in 5 hours, 3 minutes and 14 seconds. That ends sports news.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Savings account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
The Commercial Bank of Ceylon has announced a partnership with DirectPay, one of the fastest growing fintech startups in Sri Lanka, to provide internet payment gateway support and operate as the acquiring bank for the cashless payment solutions the latter develops for clients. With this partnership with Commercial Bank, DirectPay aims to expand its suite of services such as fully integrated payment point-of-sale devices to discover new market and inventory management solutions. That ends Business News.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Savings account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Economic news, courtesy of...
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
And on economic news, Fitch Ratings believes climate volatility, which has exacerbated the intensity and severity of natural disasters, remain an area of focus for Asian reinsurers. The protection gap signals the vast potential for reinsurance growth, but Asian reinsurers face challenges in enhancing their risk mitigation capability and managing premium pricing adjustments in light of the frequent catastrophe losses. The COVID-19 pandemic has dampened Asia's economic growth and development, but it has also raised the importance and demand for reinsurance. That ends economic news.
Weather Report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And finally on the Weather Report, the Met Department says showers will occur in the Western and Sabaragamu provinces and in Gaul, Matara, Kandy and Nuwara Eliya districts. Showers or thunder showers will occur at a few places elsewhere. That ends the Weather Report.
Weather Report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And to conclude this bulletin of news, the headlines again. Health authorities emphasize the need for the public to be responsible than imposing laws. Documenting of persons above 60 years who have not received COVID vaccines begins. Country loses 15 billion rupees daily due to its closure. Several ambassadors meet the foreign minister. MP Rishad Badiuddin named as the fifth accused into the death of a 16-year-old female domestic worker at his residence. In news overseas, India evacuates its stranded citizens. In sports news, it's Le Mans 24, Toyota win endurance race for fourth successive year. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.